welcome to another up close video. Today's one is for Tonic Stamp Club number 25, which is called Rawsome Dinos, and you can see it's gorgeous dinosaur prehistoric kind of themed stamp club. And we, as usual, we have our A5 stamp set and our A5 die set. We have coordinating dies for every single image, but not for any of the sentiments, but we also have extra standalone dies as well, as Tonic love to throw in, which is fantastic because they're some really gorgeous ones actually. You've got a beautiful scene here with a volcano, you've got a little pterodactyl silhouette in there as well, you've got palm trees, you've got clouds in the sky in this little scene, you've got an extra word die that you can combine with one of the stamps as well. You've got these beautiful corners which you can either use individually or use the two together, or if you do your memory book making and you've had like a dinosaur themed party and you've got photos to put in your album or your journal or your memory book, you could use these, stick them across the corners and use them as bigger photo corners as well. Maybe if the subject of your photograph is more in the centre, you can use these as a gorgeous large photo corner to hold them in place as well. And you've got a few other standalone dies in here as well. So let's look through the stamp set first, and then I'll show you all of the dies that coordinate, and we'll look at the remaining extra dies in there as well. So this is the beautiful stamp set. We've got 4 main dinosaur characters. We have got this gorgeous little one with the long neck and the spotty design. We have got the pterodactyl. I don't know what all of them are called. I know that's a T-Rex and a pterodactyl, but I think this is a triceratops maybe. And I can't remember what this one is called, but I'm sure there's lots of people out there who already know the names of all the different dinosaurs, but I just think they're cute anyway. So you've got this one, you've got the pterodactyl, which I love the way he's flying, because it kind of looks like he's wearing a cape and he's holding it with his little hands. I know it's his wings, but it makes it look like he's wearing a cape and he's holding it, but I thought that was really sweet. Then you've got the T-Rex there, who looks a little bit goofy with all of his teeth hanging out, but he looks really sweet. And then this one, which I think is a triceratops, but I can't remember, but he's got the little, yeah, I should think he is called a triceratops because he's got 3 little horns, but he's got 1 on his nose and 2 on his head, and he's got his little mouth open as well, and you can see his little tongue in there too. Then you also have a little bone, then you have a big bone as well, so you can do all sorts of different punny sentiments with those as well. You've got one that says I love the bones of you, so you can use those in conjunction with that. You can also make words out of the bones as well. I did it recently in a... I didn't do it in a video actually, it was just an extra card that I made with die cut bones for a Halloween card. So you could do stamped bones as well for a cool Halloween card, and you have the dies to cut them out, so you can stamp them and cut them out, or just use the dies actually. They still give a nice bone shape as well if you just die cut them. You've got a larger palm tree which is curving in that direction, and a smaller palm tree curving in this direction, so you've got the 2 directionalities of them. You have got an egg which is hatching, it's got a crack in it, and I love that it's got spots in it as well, because you can tie it to whichever dinosaur you're giving the egg to, because you can colour the egg and the spots to kind of represent that it belongs to that dinosaur, which is nice. You've got a little volcano. The die for the volcano actually just cuts out the body of the volcano, not the drops. So later on when I show you my samples, I explain that I trimmed around mine so that I got the drops on it as well. You've got a dinosaur footprint, so you can do some cool ideas going across your card. Or you could just build up a repetitive pattern, or that actually kind of looks a little bit like a stylised tulip as well, so you could use it as a flower if you wanted to. You've got these 2 little rocks here, and a 3rd larger rock here as well, so you can use them to ground your image, build up a little scene around them as well, and give some interest to the foreground along with your little dinosaurs too. You've got a little kind of fossil or little shell as well, and that's all of the main images. And then sentiment wise, I love these sentiments. We've got you're basically prehistoric, you've got you rock, happy birthday, which is always great to have more happy birthday. You've got hope your day is t-rexellent. You've got you old fossil, so you can do you're basically prehistoric, you old fossil, or happy birthday, you old fossil. You can sort of mix them together. You've got raw and some, so you can do rawsome. And up here, you can do Rawsome means I love you, or raw means I love you. It's like a translation for it. And I've done a different version of that later on in the video as well. Our friendship will last through the ages. I like that one. And then I love the bones of you as well. So some really lovely punny kind of sentiments too. And this one could go for like a thank you kind of idea too. So you've already got like a birthday and a thank you kind of sentiment within there as well. So, or even do you rock as a thank you card too. But I really like this month's stamp club. It's really cute and fun, and it's a similar style to some of the other stamp clubs we've had with cute little characters in, like the monsters and stuff. I know I'm always mentioning the monsters, but yeah, I'm sure you could mix and match different elements and stuff from the different sets as well. Then let's have a look and see which dies coordinate with all of the stamp designs. So I'll zoom you in a little bit closer, and I'll get a magnet so I can pick them up easier. So we've got the pterodactyl die. We have got this little dinosaur, which I can't remember what you're called, little die to cut him out. We've got the T-Rex die, and then I think this is a triceratops die as well. We've got the two palm trees, so we've got one going in that direction and one leaning in the other direction. We've got the two bones. Now these aren't actually like symmetrical down the middle point. They do actually go one way round rather than the other, so do flip that round and check you get it the right way round when you're die cutting them out. But you have the die for both of those bones. You also have the die to cut the egg out, and the one for the little fossil, and the one for this large rock, and these two smaller rocks as well. And then you also have one for the volcano. You don't actually get one for the footprint, but you're not really going to want to cut the footprints out. They're going to be more of a background element anyway, so you don't particularly need a die for those. But those are all of the ones that you have dies for. And then these are the extra dies that we have. So we have got an extra egg die. So this actually cuts an egg that is in half, so it's completely in half in two pieces, and it actually fits perfectly inside the die that cuts out the stamped egg image. So you can use these in conjunction with each other if you want to as well. If you want to keep the cracked egg together, you could stick it onto this sort of bubble piece as well. Then you have this one. I love this one. It's kind of like a fossilised skull, or, you know, archaeologically someone's dug it up or something and found a skull in a rock. So you've got this beautiful really irregular shaped rock, which is really cool, and then you've got the skull that fits inside it really nicely. And there's actually, you can actually do it both different ways. It doesn't really matter which way up it is. I think it fits better that way up, but you can do it that way up as well. It fits in both ways. And you've got that beautiful little skull which you can cut out and use individually. You can cut it inside of there and get a little aperture with a jaggedy mouth with the teeth, and then use the fall away one as well, or you can do it however you want really. I quite liked cutting a separate one and layering it on top of the rock as well. That looks really cool. So really lovely little sort of fossil kind of collection there. Then you have these two beautiful corners which completely cut out, so they completely cut the right angle on them as well. So you could put them, not necessarily the two different ones, you could do the same one and do more of like a square or circular kind of element to go in the centre of a card, put one of the dinosaurs in the centre as well, or like I did on one of my cards I'll show you later, I did it on the four corners of a rectangle card and then put the character in the centre as well. So you can really sort of build these up, and this has got the monstera leaves in there, and then this one has got larger sort of tropical leaves and little fronds and palms and stuff in there as well. So two really lovely tropical kind of designs that just look fantastic cut from a colour of card. Don't feel that you need to cut them out of white and properly colour them in or anything. They look really nice just cut from a solid colour of card as well. Maybe layering them on top of each other actually and doing a light green and a darker green or something to build up some depth in your scene would look really lovely. And you also get this little branch piece which I didn't end up using, but it's kind of like an extra vine that you could put between bits and pieces, or if you have the new Wild at Heart, I think they're called Wild at Heart, no, Wild About Zoo, that's it, the die sets that Tonic brought out, and you had the monkeys and stuff in there. You could use this and these sort of gorgeous leafy pieces in conjunction with the monkey dies as well. That would work really nicely. And then you have one final piece of foliage as well, which could be some kind of like prehistoric tree that could be off in the distance, or it can just be a branch as well. So lovely little design. You could even have it as a branch and have a tree trunk up the side and put an egg in there as well. So someone's hidden their egg up the tree. You can combine this with the Honey Bears Stamp Club. So you have that actually had a tree in it as well. And you could combine the dinosaurs with that too if you want to. Then you also have the word raw, and you can do raw means I love you with the stamp set, or you can also do Rawsome as well. And this is the other spelling of raw. So I suppose this is more of like a lion raw, and then this is kind of like a little baby dinosaur kind of raw. I don't know, but either one work nicely for any of the projects that you want to do. So that is the little raw word die. And then this is like the main focal image you have in this set, which can be used by itself or with the characters too. It looks nice both ways. So you've got a lovely oval, which is separate, and then you have this beautiful design inside with clouds and wispy kind of clouds. You've got the smoke coming out the volcano. You've got foliage over here. The volcano looks like it's in mountains, and then you've got the palm trees over the other side as well. And the size of this oval is about 3 7/8 tall, or 10 centimetres tall, by 2 7/8 wide, or about 7.5 centimetres roughly. It's a nice decent size. It works really nicely on a small size of card, or you can mat and layer it up for a larger card as well. But it's a lovely oval kind of shape, but don't think you have to cut it into an oval. If you wanted to cut this into a circle, you definitely could, and you could, so if you cut this into a circle, you'd probably have extra sort of unused kind of card over here, but you could bring in some of these vines and hide that. You could bring in one of these corners and kind of hide that behind a circular frame, so it looks like you're kind of looking through a forest of foliage, and then you'd see this off in the distance. So you can definitely do that as well, or bring it into a rectangular die cut as well. It doesn't have to be in an oval design, even though it's designed that way. It doesn't have to just be an oval, so you can play around with that. And then this fits absolutely perfectly. If I put it back on there, they've done a little silhouette pterodactyl as well, so it fits absolutely perfectly on there. And this over the top of a sunset background just looks fantastic. I cut it twice from white and once from black, or it might be 3 times from white and once from black, stacked them on top of each other and slightly offset it, so the black had a white little shadow, and it looked absolutely fantastic, just as a really quick and simple card as well. So that is everything that is in this month's Stamp Club, and I will pass you over to Pass Me to show you all of my samples and finish off the video for you. So these are all of the projects that I have made. I've done little cupcake toppers again. I've done the 4 main dinosaurs in the set, and I had to put googly eyes on them as well. So we've got the little T-Rex, and I did the t-rexellent. I really like that sentiment from the stamp set, but it was too large for putting on top of the dinosaur, so I just used my Dino labeler to do my t-rexellent. And I love doing these cupcake toppers with the stamp clubs, because you have the coordinating dies and you can stick one on the back to make it look neat as well. So that is the gorgeous little T-Rex, and I gave him a little bone as well. And I've done it with all of these kind of bright, bold colours to tie them in with the cards that I have created as well. We've got the gorgeous little pterodactyl, which I put Enjoy on, because I thought if these are going in cupcakes, that's a t-rexellent cupcake. You can enjoy this cupcake. This one I've done Rawsome, so it'll be a Rawsome cupcake, and I've put the little egg on this one as well, because he just looks like he's looking down at something, so I thought the egg would go nicely. And this one kind of has less elements to tie in the different colours, so it was quite nice to be able to put the purple on the egg as well. And then this final one says yummy, so this one will be a yummy cupcake. I just thought it made a nice little change, adding a little sentiment onto them, or a little word as well. So that is all of the little cupcake toppers with the googly eyes. And then to go along with them, I have done, it's actually a set of 6, but I'll just show you the 3 of them because they're all, is 2 of each of them. But I've done a little set of birthday cards. So you've got Hope Your Day is T-rexellent with the T-Rex. You've got You're Basically Prehistoric with the pterodactyl. And then we've got Happy Birthday with this funny little fella. And I think, is he a triceratops? I'm not sure. I don't really know my dinosaurs very well. But these are just really, really simple cards. I took 3 colours. So I was going with, is it 3? No, it's 4. It's 4 colours. I took green, purple, orange and blue. And then I chose 3 of them for die cutting. So we've got green, blue and purple. And from these, I cut the corners that we've got in the die set. So this one has 2 purple corners and 2 green corners, but the character is mostly blue. This one has 2 purple corners and 2 blue corners, so the character is mostly green. And then this one has 2 green corners and 2 blue corners, so the character is mostly purple. And then the orange is like the accent across all of them. So he's got like an orange crown portion, an orange tummy, orange stripes, and then all of the sentiments are mounted onto orange as well. So just a really simple set of cards, but again using the googly eyes, and I coloured all of the characters to match as well. And if I was going to do a 4th one with the 4th dinosaur, I would have orange as the mostly sort of colour, and I'd probably do maybe the blue and green in the background to go with that one, so that, because you've kind of got the purple on the egg as well, so I think maybe the blue and green would go nicely for that one if you wanted to create a 4th one with similar colours to what I've used. But you've got them so that all of the little toppers actually match the cards as well. So we've got those 2 sort of sets of projects. Then I've got another set as well. Janine from Tonic, she really wanted like sets of projects that could be for like parties and stuff. So this is a set of 3 that is party invitations. So I've actually done a really cool Nuvo drop background, which I have done a separate video, which is more like an actual tutorial taking you through step by step exactly how I created this card. So that video will either be up today or probably tomorrow, if not today, showing you exactly how I created this. So if you are interested, you can follow along step by step, real time, with exactly how I put it together and my thought process behind putting it together and everything as well. But I've done 3 of those, and you've got the a really gorgeous Nuvo drop background, which has got stone drops, dream drops, gloss drops and acrylic paint in the background to create this sort of grungy, prehistoric looking kind of a background. You could do this in all sorts of different ways. You could bring in shimmer powders, do a scrunched up cling film kind of background to give some rock kind of pattern. You could drag an old comb through this kind of a background to give it some more texture. You can do all sorts, but I went for this Nuvo drop kind of background. And then I just sort of went with Kraft card. I thought it would go really nicely, and I had sprinkled in some of these star confetti into some of the backgrounds for these. And I also wanted to use the dot marker, the gold one, to give the dinosaur a few little dots of gold, and that works really nicely. And so I decided to put some of the gold pearled vellum behind that main sort of aperture piece as well, so that it just muted the background behind there so that this stood out quite nicely, but it also ties in that sort of little subtle hint of gold. And I think gold goes really nicely with these kind of warm green, brown, orange tones as well. And then in the tutorial video, I showed you how to recreate this, and I also said you could also put this onto a proper card blank as well. So these are more like a flyer or postcard type kind of invitation, and I've done raw means you're invited, because in the stamp set it says raw means I love you, but I thought going along with that kind of theme, it works really nicely to go as an invitation, and you can just add your own little label on there. If you don't have a Dymo labeler, there are things on the internet that actually allow you to create a Dymo label looking thing. You can print that out and use that as well if you wanted to go for that kind of theme. You could handwrite it, you could use an alphabet stamp set, or anything that you want to really, or you might even have some other stamp sets that have this kind of theme with them as well, that have translations for what things mean and stuff, so you might already have that in your stash. But this one, I was kind of saying you could definitely switch out all of the sentiments to be whatever raw means whatever you want it to be, but I also thought if you wanted to make it a proper card like this, mounting an orange looks quite nice because it ties in the orange spots and the orange die cut word on there as well. So I did mount the fourth one onto that card as well, just as another kind of variation on whether you would want a flat invitation or one that's more of an actual card. And then I was also saying you could print out the address, the dress code, the time, the date, you know, who's invited, whose party is it and everything, 4 to a page on A4, trim them into quarters and then stick them either on the back of this or on the inside of this as well. And if you needed it to be an RSVP, you could even do, you know, like the perforated cut, and then this would be the RSVP, but here would be all of your details or something as well. So a nice little sort of versatile kind of invitation design. Then I wanted to just do some more cards as well, and I thought wouldn't it be cute to have them all standing on each other's heads. I still feel like this card is a little bit plain. The white background, I feel like an embossing folder would have been fantastic, but Tonic don't have that many embossing folders and they haven't brought them out in ages, and I didn't really want to sort of mix and match, so I just left it white. But I think this with an embossed pattern on the back would look fantastic as well. Maybe some kind of like swirly flourishy design or something, but hopefully it doesn't look too plain on the camera. And I wanted to go for this like sunset, so I did another card which I'll show you, and I did an ink blended sunset. It goes from mustard seed to spice marmalade to festive berries to seedless preserves to chipped sapphire oxides, and then I took some of the glitter gloss and I squeezed some out onto my mat and used a tiny paintbrush, like one of the little Arteza fine detail ones, and splattered it on in the background, so it's got tiny little dots in the background. And I've done that this exactly same on the other card that I'll show you as well, and I just used this as two borders, but I used it as inspiration for picking my colours of pens to use and then the coloration of the dinosaurs as well, and I swapped it, so they go from purple to sort of pinky red to orange to yellow down the card, whereas these stripes go the opposite direction. And I thought that worked quite nicely. And again, because you have all of the coordinating dies for them, it means you don't have to faff around with masking if you don't want to. Like, you definitely could have stamped him first and him first, masked them off, and then stamped that dinosaur so he would appear behind as well. But because you have the dies there, you know, it's really easy just to cut them out and add them on, and with a little bit of dimension as well. But if you want it to be completely flat, you can definitely do the masking technique as well. So that is that one. And for the eyes of this one, instead of just leaving them as they are like on this one or adding the googly eyes, I took one of the Sakura black glazed jelly roll pens and just did that on the pupil. But you could definitely do it with your Nuvo drops as well. And as I showed you in a video not that long ago, using your precision tip nozzle on some of your Nuvo drops as well, you can actually create your own Nuvo drop eyes, and you could do them to coordinate with a different iris colour as well if you wanted to. So you could definitely do that for these as well, and you could leave them to dry separately and then place them on top if you didn't want to risk ruining something that you had coloured in already. And for this one I did that our friendship will last through the ages as the sentiment. The next one I'll show you is the one that is the exact same background, so exact same colours of Distress inks all the way down, and then I stacked up 3 white die cuts and then I offset 1 black die cut on top, so it gives real dimension, and it really looks like the sun from this kind of sunset is somewhere probably in this direction shining a load of light onto everything, and I think it really gives lovely depth, but without having to do the fiddly thing of putting all of the little foam pads on the back of it. So I really like how that one turned out, and so simple, and adding in that gorgeous little pterodactyl, which it comes inside there in the die set, and it fits absolutely perfectly in that gap as well. It's really well designed, that one. I really like that. You definitely don't have to keep it this simple though. You could have done some stenciling in the background, or you know, something else to sort of make it look a little bit busier and less clean and simple, but I do quite like the simplicity of this card, and I did that same splattering with the Aqua Shimmer glitter gloss in the background as well, and then I just finished it off with the You Rock sentiment because I hadn't used that one yet, and I thought it kind of goes quite nicely as well. He's kind of like You Rock because he's sort of soaring through the sky. And then the final one, which could be my favourite. I love doing the white on white backgrounds, so I've done raw, and then I did the rock and the skull separately, layered them on top of each other to give extra dimension. So it almost makes it look like a 3D embossing folder, and the skull is at a different dimension to the rock and the raw. And then I've just coloured in this gorgeous little fella, and I've done the volcano. He's got a few bones there to go with the I love the bones of you sentiment, a few of the little palm trees, and again, because you have all of the dies to cut everything out, it makes it so easy to create one of these little cards. The only thing I didn't use the die for was the volcano, because the volcano die actually only cuts out the volcano, not the little splashes, but I wanted those splashes of lava in there, so I just cut around it myself and made it so that the lava splashes were connected. But you could definitely just cut the volcano out and cut around those lava splashes individually and stick them on if you wanted to as well. But I just thought I'd say that just in case you think that the die cut that out. I did actually trim that out myself. So I really like this one though. I love that the background like that. It just looks so lovely, so much dimension, and I think this kind of background, but bringing in maybe some of your Nuvo mousses or some of your dream drops, or any kind of drops in those sort of colours that I used for the invitation background, and you know, adding colour to it, highlighting it, and really making it look more three-dimensional by picking out the detail and just using this as if it was like an embossed piece of card for a background as well, but adding loads of colour to it, I think would look fantastic too. But yeah, I really like how that turned out. So I hope you enjoyed this up close video looking at Tonic Stamp Club number 25, which is the Rawsome Dinosaurs. I hope you enjoyed the tons of different projects that I've shown you as well, and kind of how simple it is to take these designs and batch make with them and create like a whole set of 6 birthday cards, or creating your little cupcake toppers, or also creating your invitations and doing a really cool Nuvo background as well. So definitely keep your eyes peeled for that tutorial video, because I say in the video, give me your feedback if you like that kind of video as well, because I have had a couple of comments recently of people saying they wish I spoke on my sped up videos. So, you know, if you do prefer that kind of style of video, then it could be something that I keep doing in the future as well, but I want your feedback on it. So thank you so much for watching. If you're interested in getting hold of this month's Stamp Club or any of the other bits and pieces that I've used, there will be affiliate links below the video in the video description, and also picture links on my blog post as well, and I really appreciate you taking the time to use those links too. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again in the next video. Bye!